My name is Elias, and I never thought I would stand here and speak these words aloud. I thought they would die with me, buried in the silence of a promise made in the dark. But promises are binding, and vows made before heaven must be kept. I was told, if my breath returned, if my heart beat again, I was to open my mouth and deliver this warning. And so I obey. On the night when my spirit slipped from my body, I saw him, Jesus. He stood before me clothed in light, his voice like thunder wrapped in mercy. He called me by name, and his words pierced through me like fire. 7 things must be stored. Without them, you will not survive the 3 days of darkness. I trembled then, and I tremble now, for to carry such a message is to carry a burden that burns the soul. Even now my lips are dry. Even now my hands shake, for what I saw was not a dream, not a vision spun from sleep, but truth etched in eternity. The 3 days of darkness are not myth. They are appointed, and in the silence of those days, when the world is wrapped in shadow, only those who are heard and prepared will stand. This is why I break my silence. This is why I speak. You may laugh. You may call me deluded, but I would rather be mocked by men than disobedient to God. And so I speak with fear, but also with love, because this is not about me. This is about you, about all of us, about what waits on the horizon. Hear me. These words are not for tomorrow. They are not for another age. They are for this moment, this hour. Do not delay. Do not look away. Do not harden your heart. The warning is real. The command is clear. The hour is late. The time is now. The time is now. The time is now. Before that night, before the veil was torn open, my life was unbearably ordinary. I woke each morning to the same hum of machines, the same bitter taste of coffee cooling in a chipped mug, the same hurried footsteps down streets, filled with weary faces that never lifted their eyes. I thought this was life. I thought this was all there was. Endless repetition, a wheel that spun without destination. I worked. I ate. I slept. And in between, I carry a hollowness that I dared not name. People around me spoke of ambition, of plans, of tomorrow. Yet every tomorrow felt heavier than the last. Every tomorrow carried the weight of silence, as though something vast and unspeakable was pressing down upon the earth. My laughter was practiced, my words rehearsed, my smiles painted thin. Inside, I was a cracked vessel, echoing with emptiness. Nights stretched long and sleepless, and I found myself staring at the ceiling, listening to the faint hum of electricity, the low groan of pipes in the walls, and wondering why my heart ached as if mourning something I could not name. It was as if the world itself was sighing beneath its breath, carrying a grief that none of us wanted to face. The air was thick. The sunsets were sharper, blood red, lingering as if reluctant to surrender to night. The storms that came fell heavier, as though the sky was groaning with secrets. And still, I tried to convince myself it was nothing. Just work. Just fatigue. Just another season. But deep inside, I knew something was off. Something in the marrow of the world had shifted, and no one wanted to admit it. I remember walking one evening, passing familiar streets lined with shops, the glow of neon signs flickering against broken sidewalks. People hurried by with faces bent toward screens, voices tangled in meaningless chatter. And yet, beneath it all, I could almost hear the silence of creation holding its breath. It was not just me. The earth was waiting as though poised on the edge of something vast, something terrible, something holy. In those days, my soul was dull, my prayers mechanical, my faith a husk. I spoke the words I had been taught, but they tasted of ash on my tongue. The songs I once sang felt hollow, and I wondered if heaven had grown deaf to the sound of men. Yet, in the quiet moments, when I allowed myself to listen, truly listen, I heard it, a pulse beneath the surface, a trembling in the unseen, a whisper too low for ordinary ears. He called my name in the dark. I did not know then what it meant. I did not know that the hollow ache, the heaviness in the air, the restless stirring in creation itself was not madness, but a warning. It was a summons, a call preparing me for the night when the veil would rip open, and my life would be forever undone. Something was off. The earth was waiting, and so was he. My body broke before my spirit understood what was happening. One moment, I was standing in the rhythm of life's dull routine. The next, I was falling, as if the weight I carried in silence had finally crushed me. My chest burned with fire, my breath clawed for air that would not come. The edges of my vision began to tremble, then narrow, as though the world itself were folding in on me. And in that narrowing, in that collapse, I heard it keep speaking. The sound was not of this earth. It was not thunder nor whisper. It was command. It pierced through the panic of failing lungs, through the terror of collapsing flesh, and it held me in place as the world grew dim. Keep speaking. Time broke apart then. The seconds stretched into an eternity. Each heartbeat was a war fought slowly, like rivers of blood moving reluctantly through stone. My limbs felt distant, foreign, as though they belonged to another. I tried to reach for help, but my arms hung lifeless, heavy as anchors. The body I had trusted to carry me through this earth was betraying me. Yet even in that betrayal, a strange clarity was born. I could see myself, lying there, my own face pale, my chest rising in uneven spasms, eyes half closed. It was as if the shell of me had been left behind, and I hovered just above, untouched by the pain, untangled from the prison of skin and breath. I wanted to cry out, but my voice was no longer bound to lips or tongue. Instead, I was a cry, silent and uncontainable, filling the unseen air with longing. And again, like an echo stitched into eternity, I heard it keep speaking. Then came the light, not harsh, not blinding, but soft and endless, as though every sunrise ever born had poured itself into one eternal river. It did not shine from above, it drew me, the way the tide pulls the moon, the way fire summons dry wood. My spirit, weightless, turned toward it, and in that pull the earth and its heaviness fell away. There was no fear, only detachment, as though grief, pain, and regret had been left behind with the heartbeat I no longer felt. My breathlessness was gone, my aching bones forgotten. I was being carried, not by steps but by surrender, towards something vast, something holy. The tunnel opened before me, an infinite corridor carved from light and silence. Its walls shimmered like memory, like every prayer I had ever whispered in weakness, woven together to form a pathway. I felt myself dissolving into it, not losing who I was, but becoming more than I had ever been. Keep speaking. The words were now within me, not outside. They rang through the marrow of whatever I had become. They were not suggestion, not comfort. They were decree, as if heaven itself would not let me fall into silence. And in that moment, as I hovered between what was flesh and what was spirit, I understood I had made a vow long ago. I had promised, in the secrecy of my prayers, that if he spared me, if he pulled me through the valley of shadow, I would testify. I would speak. I would not hide the visions given to me. Keep speaking. The refrain grew louder as the tunnel drew me deeper. And with each repetition, I felt the truth, that this was not an ending but a threshold, that death was not a wall, but a door disguised in darkness. And I was stepping through, not because I was strong, but because he had called my name in the dark. And still the command burned. Keep speaking. The tunnel widened. And suddenly I was no longer moving through it, but being absorbed into a vastness beyond comprehension. It was not a place in the way we understand places. It was atmosphere, it was essence. It was the very fabric of being itself. Light wrapped itself around me, not like a garment, not like a shield, but like breath, alive, pulsating, endless. It did not shine from one source, for it was a source, the beginning and the end braided into one radiance. And the sound, how can I speak of it? It was not noise, not music, not language, but it was all three at once. It was harmony without instruments, speech without syllables, a river of resonance flowing from eternity into eternity. Every vibration carried meaning. Every note carried memory. It told me stories without words, poured revelations into my spirit without asking permission. I was not listening. I was being listened to. Then came the warmth. Not heat, not fire, but a saturation of love, so complete it pierced deeper than marrow. It entered the hollow places of my being where loneliness had once made its home. It filled every absence, every hunger, every grief I had carried in silence. And I understood in a breath that I had never truly been alone, not for a single moment of my life. Even in the seasons where silence felt like abandonment, presence had been holding me unseen. He called my name in the dark. The refrain echoed, not from without, but from the very core of this realm. It was as though the entire expanse of heaven repeated it with me, like a chant swelling into eternity. And I wept without tears, for my spirit shook under the weight of it. I was not alone. Shapes moved in the distance, or perhaps they had always been near, and I had only now received eyes to see. They were not bodies as I had known them, but essences clothed in radiance, each distinct, each known. Some I recognized without introduction. The warmth of my grandmother's embrace, the quiet gaze of a friend I had buried too young, the presence of saints I had only read of in fragile books, and others, ancient ones, whose faces carried the fragrance of times long buried in dust. They did not speak, yet I heard them. They did not reach for me, yet I felt held. Their essence declared one truth. This isn't death, this is unveiling. The whisper settled into me like seed. I understood then that death was a veil, thin, delicate, fragile, and beyond it was not the silence of nothingness, but the roaring fullness of everything. The atmosphere itself breathed me in. It knew me, it sang me. I was not a visitor, I was a returning child. And yet I trembled, for the holiness of it was beyond endurance. If love could weigh, it would have crushed me. If peace could burn, it would have consumed me. But instead, it lifted me, made me more than I had been, healed the fractures of my spirit that had never found rest on earth, returned to the fire. The refrain stirred again, not as command now, but as remembrance. I realized I was standing, not on soil, not on stone, but within living flame. It did not consume, but it revealed every hidden thought, every secret wound, every vow I had made in silence was laid bare in its glow. And yet, there was no shame here, only unveiling, only truth spoken without condemnation. I longed to stay. I longed never to look back. For in that atmosphere, every hunger was satisfied. Every question was answered before it formed. The souls around me shimmered with joy not their own, but borrowed from the eternal light. They were rivers, returning always to the sea of God. And still, deep within the marrow of my spirit, I heard again, "Keep speaking." And then he came, not as I had seen him in paintings, not as I had imagined in my prayers, but as light clothed in light, so radiant that even the radiance bowed before him. His presence did not enter, it was the atmosphere. And yet he stood before me, form discernible yet untouchable, beauty beyond all earthly beauty. His face was both flame and tenderness, his robe woven from the very fabric of eternity. And his eyes, his eyes. To meet them was to be undone. They did not glance, they pierced. They did not observe, they knew. In a single gaze, he held the entirety of my life before me, not as accusation, not as condemnation, but as unveiling. Every hidden thought, every unspoken sorrow, every secret vow was gathered in that gaze and made whole. It was not judgment I felt, it was truth, naked and absolute. And in that truth, I saw myself as I had never dared to see. My pride, my failures, my compromises, all there unhidden. But intertwined with them were the tears I had wept in silence, the prayers I had whispered when I thought no one heard, the love I had stumbled to offer even when broken. He saw it all, and he loved me still. No courtroom, no verdict, no hammer of guilt. Only this, pure understanding. And he spoke, though not as we speak. His words entered not through ears, but through spirit, as if every syllable was carved into my marrow. I brought you here for a reason, to warn them. The word struck like fire upon stone, sparking something eternal within me. I had not been carried here for comfort, not summoned for consolation. This was not reward. It was assignment. I was being sent, branded by his command. You were brought here to remember. The refrain reverberated through the expanse. Every soul around us, every shimmering presence seemed to echo it in silent agreement. You were brought here to remember. My knees buckled beneath the weight of his gaze, though I had no knees in the earthly sense. My very essence bent low, trembling beneath the charge. I wanted to cry out, I am unworthy. I am too small. I cannot bear this fire. But even before the thought formed, his eyes answered, It is not your strength that carries it. It is mine. He showed me then flashes of the earth as it is, and the earth as it will be, shadows creeping where light once ruled, voices silenced where truth once rang. I saw hunger not of bread, but of spirit. I saw hearts parched like deserts, thirsty for living water, yet turning to broken cisterns. And I saw calamities, some natural, some birthed by human hands, that would shake the foundations of nations. And then he whispered again, 7 things must be stored. I trembled, for I did not yet understand, but the weight of it pressed upon me like prophecy. This was not metaphor. This was instruction. This was the kind of truth that demands obedience. You were brought here to remember. The refrains circled me, sank into me, burned within me. It was no longer only command. It was vow. If I lived, I would carry this fire back. If I drew breath again in the realm of flesh, I would not bury what was entrusted to me. For I knew now, my life had been spared not for comfort, not for length of days, but for testimony, to speak, to warn, to call. He called my name in the dark. And I, trembling in his light, answered, not with words, but with surrender. He did not speak as a man lists items on a page. He unveiled them as living truths, each one burning into me like fire branded on the soul. They were not suggestions. They were not metaphors. They were life. And without them, he said, none would endure the coming darkness. The first was pure oil for the lamps. He showed me 1,000 lamps flickering, some dimming, some already gone cold. And he said, this is faith, this is prayer, this is a secret place where I am found. Oil not bought with coins, but pressed in surrender, in fasting, in nights where tears are the only words. Without oil, when the shadows thicken, the lamps die, and the soul is left groping. I felt the weight of it. Faith not as theory, but as fuel. Prayer not as ritual, but as breath itself. Pure oil. Without it, even the strong will falter. The second was water untainted. I saw streams choked with filth, rivers poisoned, and souls drinking yet never satisfied. And he said, keep water for your body, but keep also the living water for your spirit. Both are needed. Without clean water, the flesh collapses. Without the water I give, the soul withers. He showed me jars sealed, prepared, untouched by decay. And he showed me hearts that had carved cisterns but held no living spring. Water untainted. Both the water for the lips and the water for the soul. Without it, thirst drives men into madness. The third was unleavened bread. He broke it before me, light shining through the very crumbs. This is food, he said, but more, it is my body given for you. I saw families breaking loaves in silence, hands trembling with hunger, and yet eyes burning with hope. He showed me that bread must be kept for the body. Yes, but more. Hearts must feed on the bread of life, or famine of spirit will consume them faster than famine of flesh. Man does not live by bread alone, he whispered. And I wept, because I knew I had lived on bread but forgotten the word that sustains. The fourth was blessed candles of purity. I saw the world smothered in pitch-black darkness, a silence so heavy it could be touched. And then one single flame, consecrated, untainted, breaking the dark. Keep candles, yes, he said, but let them be holy, set apart to me. For in the days when the sun hides and the moon gives no light, consecrated fire will stand against the night. It was more than wax and wick. It was purity. It was light that does not compromise. It was a reminder that even in the abyss, his light cannot be quenched. Blessed candles. Without them, fear devours. The fifth was sacred scriptures. He lifted before me a book, but it was not bound in leather or ink. It was alive. Its words were flame, its pages breathing. Hide my word not just on paper, but in your heart, he said. For when the world closes a book, only what is sealed within you will remain. I saw scrolls burning, Bibles torn, but I also saw verses carved into souls, unerasable. He warned me. The time comes when access will be stolen, when voices will be silenced. But the word, hidden within, cannot be taken. Sacred scriptures, sealed not on shelves, but in spirit. Without them, lies consume. The sixth was repentance and forgiveness. I thought he would show me things of the body, but instead he pierced me with things of eternity. He said, repentance is treasure, forgiveness is provision. And I saw hearts heavy with grudges, souls chained by bitterness. They had food, they had water, they had gold, but they could not pass into light, because they carried unforgiveness like stones. Store repentance daily, he commanded. Keep forgiveness near you, for it will be the bread you must eat when the darkness tempts you to hate. And I wept again, because I had stored bitterness far more faithfully than forgiveness. Repentance and forgiveness. Without them, even survival becomes damnation. The seventh was love-bound in community. He showed me a single soul, trembling in the dark, flame flickering low. And then he showed me many flames bound together, the darkness retreating before them. The lone flame dies in the storm, but when they're bound, the wind only makes them stronger. He said, do not isolate, do not walk alone. Store love in your family, in your brothers and sisters, in all who call upon my name. For the greatest famine is love, and without it, the cold will consume. And then he said the words that carved themselves into me. Without these you will not survive. Not 3 days. Not one. The seven stood before me, not as symbols, not as poetry, but as law etched into eternity. Oil, water, bread, candles, scriptures, repentance, love. He paused, and his eyes, blazing like galaxies, met mine. The world must be shaken before it can be restored. And I knew then that what he gave me was not just warning. It was hope. For though the shaking would come, though the darkness would fall, those who store these things would not only endure, they would shine. He called my name in the dark. He told me to remember. He commanded me to speak. And so I speak. They were chosen. I saw it before the sun had the strength to rise. In the hollow silence where the earth trembled with secrets, the vision opened like a wound across the sky. The darkness was heavy, pressing against the ribs of the world, and in it I saw faces, countless faces. They came like shadows, drifting, stumbling, carried by winds of fear. Their eyes searched for fire, but found only ash. Their lips trembled with questions they dared not speak. Some fell to their knees, their hearts breaking under the weight of silence. Fear swallowed them whole. But in the same darkness, others began to shine. It was not a light borrowed from candles, nor stolen from the stars. It was a light that erupted from within, as if the marrow of their bones remembered Eden, as if their souls were kindled by an eternal flame that could not be drowned. They rose, trembling yet unbroken, their faces streaked with tears, their hands stretched upward as though they remembered a song too holy for words. They were chosen. I saw them stand when all others fell. Their mouths opened not in despair, but in praise, a praise that cracked the silence of the abyss. Their breath became incense, rising. Their steps were steady, even as the ground shook. They carried no weapons, no banners, no crowns. Their power was not in what they held, but in who held them. And I knew these were the remnant, born not of chance, but of covenant, forged not by their strength, but by their surrender. They were chosen. I heard the prophecy written not on parchment, but on the wind. In the days when the shadows rise, the remnant shall awaken. They will not be many, but they will be enough. They will walk through fire and not be consumed. They will drink from bitterness and not die. They will stand in the ruins and sing the new song of dawn. The vision burned. I tried to turn my gaze, but obedience pinned me open. Their faces multiplied, men and women, old and young, broken and whole. Some once rejected, forgotten, cast aside. Some who carried scars so deep their stories have been silenced. And yet in the darkness, they glowed like hidden embers scattered across the earth, sparks waiting to ignite. They were chosen, and I wept because I saw myself among them, not because I was worthy, but because I was called. I remembered the vow. If I survived the pit, I would tell the fire. If I lived past the night, I would bear witness to the dawn. Now the words cut from my lips like a final vow kept, because silence would be disobedience, and disobedience would be death. I tell you this because the vision is not a dream. It is a seed already breaking open in the soil of time. The darkness will thicken and many will bow. But a remnant, the remnant, will rise with holy fire in their veins. Their voices will shatter the long night. Their hands will rebuild what fear destroyed. Their footsteps will mark the beginning of the end, and the end of the beginning. They were chosen. This is not history. It is prophecy. It is not yet, but it is near. The multitudes will gather. Some will tremble, others will burn. And the remnant, those who know his name in the dark, will carry the weight of tomorrow on their shoulders. And when they rise, the world will know the truth, that in every age, in every ruin, in every silence, there is always a chosen fire. They were chosen. They don't want this truth to spread. When the vision faded, I fell back into the cage of my body. It was sudden and violent, like being cast from heaven into a bed of machines. The beeping pierced me first, then the weight of wires tugging at my skin, the dry taste of oxygen forcing the lungs that no longer wanted to breathe. I gasped as though I had drowned and been pulled unwillingly back to shore. My chest burned with borrowed air. My limbs trembled as if they remembered another realm and resented this return. The ceiling above me was white, but it felt like prison bars. I wanted to scream the vision into the room, to pour the fire still burning in my bones into the ears of those around me. But when I spoke, broken, halting, desperate, their eyes clouded with pity. Some leaned closer, thinking my words delirium. Others smirked, hiding their mockery in clinical tones and forced smiles. They asked about pain levels, about sleep, about medicine. None asked about the multitude, the remnant, the prophecy. None wanted to hear about the light I saw rising from the dark. They don't want this truth to spread. I felt it in the silence that followed my words, the unspoken dismissal, the polite laughter, the turning of heads. I carried a fire in my chest, but to them it was madness, the rambling of one who had been too close to death. I spoke again, slower, with reverence, but the more I revealed, the more resistance hardened. Friends who once prayed for me began to edge away. Family who had pleaded for my healing now wished I would keep quiet. They wanted the miracle, but not the message. They wanted my survival, but not my testimony. They don't want this truth to spread. And then the shadows came. At first, small disturbances. Lights flickering in the quiet of the ward. Strange drafts moving across my skin, though the windows were sealed. Dreams that felt heavier than dreams, pressing down on me like a weight. In those hours, I heard whispers, low, mocking, circling. They taunted not with words I could repeat, but with sensations, coldness in the marrow, dread threading through the ribs. I would wake with my body drenched, not in sweat, but in a fear that clung like oil. Still I spoke, because silence was death and testimony was life. Each word I carried like a torch, fragile but burning. Each memory I poured into sentences felt like obedience written on my tongue. But the more I spoke, the stronger the opposition grew. Dreams bled into waking. Machines in my room malfunctioned, without cause. I would see shadows gather at the corner of vision, thick, watching, waiting. When I prayed, they scattered. When I faltered, they pressed closer. They don't want this truth to spread. And I understood then, the vision was not only a gift, but a war. To carry it was to become marked. To release it was to become hunted. Every word spoken into the air was met with resistance, as though unseen hands fought to choke the sound before it reached another ear. I realized I had not only seen prophecy, I had stepped into battle. My survival was not an ending but beginning, and my tongue was now a weapon they sought to silence. But I could not remain silent. I remembered my vow. If I lived, I would tell it. If breath remained in me, I would not let it pass unused. Even as laughter mocked me, even as shadows closed in, even as fear coiled around my bed, I kept speaking, because obedience is greater than reputation, because testimony is greater than acceptance, because love is greater than fear. They don't want this truth to spread, but it has already begun. The vision is no longer mine alone. It drips from my lips into your ears even now, and once heard, it cannot be unheard. Once planted, it cannot be uprooted. Shadows may rage, machines may fail, mockery may wound, but the fire burns on. It is not mine to keep. It was never mine. It was always meant to be given away, even at the cost of being rejected, ridiculed, resisted. They don't want this truth to spread, which is why it must. He called my name in the dark, and now I must call yours. There's a war for souls, not a war of borders or kingdoms, not the kind that can be measured in weapons or walls. This is the war that rages in silence, beneath the skin of nations, inside the secret chambers of the heart. And it is closer than the breath you're drawing now. I was shown its beginning, its shadow rising like smoke before the flame. I was told not to keep it sealed. And so I tell you, the shaking has begun. Most will not listen. Most will laugh and perish, convinced that time belongs to them, convinced that warnings are fables. They will dismiss the trembling of the earth, the darkening of skies, the voices that still echo in the night. They will continue to eat and drink, to build and plan, to curse and mock, until the moment the flood breaks their doors and the fire swallows their fields. They will say, "It is nonsense," until it is too late. But you, yes, you were chosen to hear this. Not by accident, not by chance. The very fact that these words have reached you marks you. You have been summoned into the circle of those who can no longer say, "I did not know." You have been entrusted with a seed, and it is now in your hands whether it withers in neglect or bears fruit in obedience. You were chosen to hear this. Do not waste the mercy of hearing. Store the things that were given, both in your body and in your spirit. Gather the pure oil of faith and prayer, for without it your lamp will flicker in the darkness. Keep the water untainted, for thirst will test both flesh and soul. Break the unleavened bread, not only to feed your body, but to remember that Christ is the bread of life who never spoils. Guard the blessed candles of purity, for light consecrated to him will not be consumed by shadows. Seal the sacred scriptures in your heart, for pages may burn, but the word endures. Clothe yourself in repentance and forgiveness, for these are treasures no thief can steal. And above all, bind yourself in love with others, for the scattered will fall, but the united will rise. Without these, survival is impossible. You were chosen to hear this. And so I speak with urgency, though my voice trembles with both love and sorrow. This is not the time for hesitation. This is not the hour for delay. Every moment wasted is a door closed, a lamp emptied, a chance lost. The world must be shaken before it can be restored. Do not cling to what is crumbling. Do not anchor yourself in what will be torn away. Stand where the fire refines, not where it destroys. He called my name in the dark, and now I call yours. The war is for your soul. The silence you choose now will echo louder than your words. The steps you take now will shape the path you walk when the storm descends. Do not be caught empty-handed when the bridegroom comes. Do not be found sleeping when the cry pierces the night. Wake, prepare, store, and remember, you were chosen to hear this. And because you were chosen, I must ask you to act, not only for yourself, but for those who have not yet heard. Let this testimony not end with you. Share it. Spread it like fire through dry grass. Carry it to those who sit in shadow, who scoff, who wait without knowing what is coming. The resistance is real. The shadows fight to silence it, but the truth must travel faster than fear. This is a vow I made when breath returned to me, that I would not bury what was given, that I would not hide the fire in my bones, that I would pour it out, even if mocked, even if rejected, even if opposed. And now, that vow rests in your hands as well. He called my name in the dark, and now he is calling yours. Will you return to the fire? Will you prepare? Will you share what you have heard? The testimony cannot stay chained. The truth cannot stay buried. You were chosen, and now the choice is yours. He called my name in the dark, and now, as the hour closes, I must leave you with the weight of what cannot be ignored. This isn't just my story. It is yours. It is ours. The thread that ran through my breath, my collapse, my crossing over, my return, it was never woven for me alone. It was placed in my hands like fire, and fire cannot be hoarded. Fire either burns or it dies. And so I hand the flame to you, trembling, reverent, because I know what it costs and I know what it saves. This isn't just my story. It's yours. Do you not feel it? The trembling beneath the soil of your days, the ache in the air, the whisper you've ignored when silence grows heavy? Something inside you already knows that time is not infinite, that the veil is thinner than we dare to admit. You felt it in your bones, in the moments when laughter felt hollow, when noise could not drown hunger, when the night pressed against your chest, and you wondered why it felt so close. This isn't just my story. It's yours. And so I ask you, not with arrogance, not with the cruelty of demand, but with the urgency of one who has stood at the edge. When the veil lifts, will your lamp burn? Will you stand with oil in your vessel? Or will you be caught empty, scrambling in the midnight hour? Will you wake when the cry goes out? Or will you be found among the sleeping? The time is now. Not tomorrow. Not when you feel ready. Not when the world grows quiet enough to make obedience convenient. The time is now. The time has always been now. Every breath is a mercy. Every moment is an invitation. Every heartbeat is a knocking at the door of eternity. Return to the fire. Return to the oil, to the water, to the bread, to the candles, to the word, to repentance, to love. Return before the night swallows the horizon. Return before the storm breaks in full. Return before your name is called in the dark and you cannot answer. The time is now. I do not say this as a preacher, nor as a prophet in my own strength. I say it as one who stood at the border of silence and heard the voice that still shakes me awake at night. I say it as one who was told, warn them. I say it as one who made a vow not to bury what was given. This is not performance. This is not myth. This is not the imagination of a restless soul. This is obedience. This is fire in my bones. This is love too heavy to stay silent. He called my name in the dark, and he is calling yours. The time is now. Return to the fire. Return to the Gospels. Return to the truth. Return to Christ. Do not trade him for shadows. Do not exchange him for noise. Do not ignore the one who holds both your beginning and your end. For without Christ, the dawn will not come. Without him, morning will never break. Without him, there's only the endless night. And so I leave you with this whisper, a final vow sealed not with my strength, but with the scars of his. Without Christ, the dawn will not come. Without Christ, the dawn will not come. Without Christ, the dawn will not come.